I don't recommend what I did to anyone. I went to Israel on this past Thursday. I got there Friday. I spent the night in a hotel. I spoke Saturday morning in Israel, and then I got on a jet and came home and was home Sunday. It's not a recommended adventure. I don't know why God hasn't got me into being translated yet, but if there's been an acceptable time, it was this past weekend. I'm ready, God. I received a word, a prophetic word from Keith Ellis several years back, and it probably was the most significant word I had ever received in my walk with the Lord. He said, Sid, I see you with a sign, and on that sign it says 4 letters, METV. It's a for sale sign. Do you know what that means? And I said, well, I know what METV is. It's a television network in Israel. Long story short, we purchased METV, and we are currently on air on the basic package in every home in Israel that owns a television, plus the entire Middle East, plus the new satellite gives us access to 500 million people. I would call that an exciting prophetic word, because I didn't tell you this part about, I'll tell you just a little because it's such a long story on how we acquired it. We never should have acquired it. But when I got that word, I found out the owner of METV had just died, and his son had just taken over. And he didn't have a burden for METV like his dad, and so he put it up for sale. But there were, I'm not going to go into that story, but very supernatural. Had I not had that word, the history wouldn't have been the history. I just got a new word from the same prophet. His track record is very good with me, and with other people too, of course. And the word he gave me exploded in me when he gave it to me. I mean, it was one, do you know what I'm talking about? When something that just sounds right, it's right, that's it. And it's a word, unless God gave it to me, not through a prophet, but direct, I wouldn't have come up with it. I've heard about global entry into nations where it's easier to go through immigration. But how many of you have heard about global glory? It's not just glory in Israel. It's not just glory in the United States. We're about ready to experience, and this is the part that'll surprise a lot of people. They think it's going to be a gradual increase in the glory. It's going to be a sudden. It's going to happen suddenly. You be ready. You see, if it's gradual, you have time to prepare. If it's sudden, I mean, you better be on top of your game right now, because what if it happens while I'm talking? It could. And the thing that will make this glory different than any other, well, like on Passover, we Jews say, why is this night different than any other night? Well, why is this glory different than any other glory? First of all, here's a warning from God. Do not treat the glory of God lightly. Just because for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been talking about the glory of God. Now a lot of people are talking about it. But some of it, you don't understand. The glory of God is the presence of God. And God is God, the creator of everything and everyone. And he deserves respect. And in our culture, he's buddy. No, God isn't buddy. He's God. I understand when people say that. It's an endearing type of word. But don't lose sight of the fact he is a holy God. And I think too many are losing, they're two extremes. Well, we're over on the wrong. That's what we humans do. We go from one extreme to another extreme. So the first thing about this glory that is coming is it is a glory of holiness, which will transform the world, not just Israel, not just the United States. The world is about ready to be transformed suddenly. And the degree of the presence of God will be so strong that many of us, and I include myself because I know it's going to be on me, will walk around with light over our head. Visible light that people are going to be able to see. And this visible light, number one, will heal your whole body. This visible light, number two, will literally make you younger. This visible light, number three, will give you the energy that you kind of wish you had. I mean, it's the one that created us, that light is him. And it's going to be over us. This visible light will do for others what it does for us, the carriers of this visible light. What does that mean? That means you walk up to your rebellious children and you just smile and you have the glory of God on you. They're not going to be rebellious much longer. It's going to be a whole new dimension, a degree that the world has never experienced before. The world has never written about. The world has never comprehended what is about ready to happen. In fact, there are several scriptures. The one that supports global glory, I think the best one is Habakkuk 2:14. For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. The earth, that's why it's global. The earth, and by the way, notice one word I said, let's not skip over it, will be filled, not a little dab, filled with the glory of God. And then and I might add, I know that I and many others, I think everyone listening to me, as a matter of fact, is the others, are commissioned by God to operate in a high degree of the Spirit and act like God did when he created the earth. What did God do when he created the earth? He spoke it into existence. We are to speak about the global glory. Do you know why? It's not just to let people know it's coming. It's to cause it to manifest on earth. And I believe those that start speaking about it will be the first to enter into it. Isaiah chapter 59, I'm going to start a little earlier than I do when I talk about Isaiah 60. Isaiah 59, verse 21 through Isaiah 60, verse 7. It describes where we are right now and some of the good things that are about ready to happen. I don't know about you, but I would like some good things to happen. And I believe we're coming into this season of the global glory where good things are going to happen. Not for everyone, but for those that are walking in the light of God, in the glory of God. Isaiah 59:21. As for me, this is my covenant with them. God is saying, this is my covenant with those that want to make a covenant, not those I make one with, those that accept the covenant I'm offering to whosoever shall believe in the name of the Lord shall be saved. As for me, this is my covenant with them, says the Lord. My Spirit who is upon you, and my words which I have put in your mouth shall not depart out of your mouth. That's my instructions. Shall not depart out of my mouth, nor out of the mouth of your descendants. Do you realize the blessing God is saying right here? He's not just talking about my mouth. He's talking about my daughter's mouth. He's talking about my granddaughter's mouth. He's telling him about my great-grandchildren's mouth. Shall not depart out of my mouth, nor out of the mouth of my descendants, nor out of the mouth of your descendants, says the Lord. From this time forth, and you know how long? Forever. And as the song goes, forever is a pretty long time. Arise, shine. These are marching orders. And you notice it says shine. You're going to shine with the glory of God. You picture walking in a restaurant, minding your own business, and there's a fire over your head? Do you have to figure out something creative to start a conversation with someone? There's going to be lines. What is that? You know? Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For darkness shall cover the earth, deep darkness the peoples. But the Lord shall rise upon you, and his glory shall be upon you. Nations shall come to your light. Talk about evangelistic meetings. You walk into a nation like Israel and you have a fire over your head, and see whether they're interested in coming to your light. Anyone will want to. You go into Muslim nations with a light over your head. You picture this? I mean, there's no paradigm to compare with what's about ready to happen. This has happened in the past with Branham. They had pictures of a light, but just a few. What if there's tens of thousands like this? You see how this world can change for the good? Nations shall come to your light, kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see. They all gather themselves together. They're coming to you. Your sons shall come from afar. Your daughters shall be carried at your side. Then you shall see and be radiant, and your heart shall thrill and rejoice, because the abundance of the sea shall be converted to you. The wealth of nations shall come to you. Now, this is talking about Israel. I want you to understand this. But this is talking with those that are under the same covenant of God that created Israel. So it's talking about believers and it's talking about Israel, both. Do not eliminate one for the other. You must understand it's talking about Israel, the nation Israel, and it's talking about the church. And this is the church's finest, most glorious hour we're entering right now. And I feel like I've almost been a forerunner of the glory when I do my lectures on the supernatural, because I've interviewed the best of the best that have moved in miracles and prophecy and words of knowledge, the best of the best. But I see things happening at my meeting that once in a while I'll have someone say, I had a meeting once where so many people got healed. Everyone that came forward got healed. But you don't hear that much. But you never hear that in reference to Jewish non-believers in Israel. You never hear that. I've never heard that. Warren, you've been around a while. You've ever heard that? I have my staff here, and Warren's a Jewish believer that's probably been a believer almost, or as long as me. But no one's ever heard of this. Wherever you parachute me, that there be a large number of Jewish people, this will happen. Can I make it happen? No. Can I heal anyone? No. Now, when the glory comes on me, watch out. When the glory comes on you, watch out. But not this last meeting I had in Israel, but the one I had in Israel where I did a tour, the one before. And they took pictures of light all over my hands and all over my feet, and which I was amazed to see. But this meeting was different. It's almost like God's doing a new thing, and don't really understand exactly what it is. This was different. First of all, Israel was different. They had 3 months of rain. It's historic rain. It's the most rain they have had in 30 years. And it stopped the night before the event. That's the good news. The bad news is all of that rain caused flooding and even deaths. And people were scared to go out. They didn't know if it just stopped for a second, and then it'll pour again. And also, even if it did stop, the flooding would be life-threatening. So I wouldn't go out to any meeting if I thought, there's flooding and it could be life-threatening. And we had 1,000 people said they were going to come to my lecture on the supernatural in Israel. These are Jewish, Israeli, non-believers. And they knew I was a believer in Jesus, and I told them that there would be miracles. I guarantee it. Now you say, Sid, how can you guarantee it? If you say you can't make a miracle happen. I'm going on track record with God, and He has a good track record as far as showing up when I speak. And I like that track record. So it's a faith thing. I am believing God's going to show up. If I ever do a meeting and He doesn't show up, I may never show up again. But however, He shows up. And I operate in what's called words of knowledge. And so many people were healed. I mean, unbelievable. Now, a believer, by faith, will push the envelope and say, yeah, I believe I'm healed. I'm healed. You understand what I'm saying? They mean, well, it's by faith, but you're either healed or you're not healed. If you're a non-believer and you say you're healed, trust me. If you're a Jewish non-believer and you're healed in the name of Jesus, trust me, you are healed. And there's so many hands went up. Every time I see it, and I see it at every meeting I have, that's for Jewish evangelism, every time I see this, I'm amazed. Absolutely amazed. Knowing, see, this is how the glory operates. When the glory shows up, you're not laying hands on someone. You're not the center of attention. All you do is you're a good Jewish reporter. You just report through words of knowledge what God is doing in that big group. And you usually report it before it happens, sometimes a split second before it happens, or sometimes I've reported it when it's already happened and no one's told me. And when so many people got healed, this is the way the first church operated. Do you really think thousands of people, before we had media like we have it today, would show up on the top of a mountain in a desert to hear some rabbi speak and not even have food and be 3 days away from food and water? It wasn't because he was the best speaker in the world, which he was, but that wasn't it. It was because of the signs and wonders. The blind could see, the deaf could hear, the lame could walk, the dead were raised. That would be worth the sacrifice. Then, after they came, they heard the good news, and that's what happens with me. In these meetings, Many people are instantly healed, and then they are willing to hear the good news. And almost everyone stood up and made public professions of faith. Now, I left out an important detail. I told you we had 1,000 reservations. I told you that it was life-threatening to come to our meeting. What happened? The number of people that showed up was 738 showed up. To me, that's one of the greater miracles. They showed up. Really. I don't know if I would have shown up. Would you have shown up? Come on now, be real. Wouldn't you have slept in? Okay. The thing the glory did in such a unique fashion is the people were riveted to every word I was saying. How do I know this? Because I'm looking at them and they're looking at me, and I can see when people are disinterested. I can see when people are more interested in texting their friends. You know, we don't take their cell phones. I wish we did. We don't confiscate them. But they were riveted to every word. And I'm convinced many are going to be outstanding leaders and evangelists and teachers and prophets and pastors of the gospel, of that group that came to the Lord. I haven't gotten reports of what the healings were, but I was told about 2 women, that elderly women, that had knee problems. One had just taken a gigantic fall and was in such bad shape, in addition to the potential flooding, she could barely walk. She was in such agonizing pain. She was one of the 2 that was dancing away, literally dancing at the, you would run, do you remember the crippled man, the lame man at the gate beautiful? He was leaping and jumping for joy. That's what I saw, the same thing. On the way to the airport, well, even before that, now that's with a group. That's with the glory showing up. But that same glory was one-on-one with people. I have never seen such a heart of interest in Israelis. I mean, Orthodox Israelis, secular Israelis, young Israelis, old Israelis. How do I know? I talk to everyone about Jesus. That's how I know. But I'll just tell you one quick story. And there was a taxi driver that took us to the airport on this marathon trip. And I started witnessing to him. It didn't have much interest. But by the time we got there, he prayed a prayer of salvation. And he kept saying, I don't know that I've ever had this happen before. He kept saying, thank you, thank you. Thank you for telling me this good news. Why are so many Jewish people open at this moment? Because the truth of the matter is, they haven't heard. As Paul put it, how can you call in him whom you've not heard? And how can you hear unless someone's going to preach the gospel? It's like there's such low-hanging fruit in Israel, no one's sharing with them. But some things developed on that trip, and I believe they are going to come to fruition, that we're going to get quite a witness in Israel in the next few months. And we'll keep you posted on that. Global glory. It's coming. Hang in there. This is going to last a blink of the eye, whatever you're going through, whatever personal problems you're going through. It's a blink of the eye compared to eternity. Hang in there. Trust God. Get as close to God as you know how. It's a new ball game. and you've been selected.